Dude, national debt is really scary, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
You you were telling me earlier today it's reached how much?
It's like 90 trillion or something like that. It was something crazy. It was like between 40 to like 90 trillion or something crazy. It's not that's not even like yeah, that's just a big number.
Can you even imagine $90 trillion?
I
Can you?
mean,
Can you even
no, not
imagine
really. I no,
No,
no.
like I don't think I can either. I think that's too hard to do. Like, can we let's just start with something basic, all right? Let's just start with this mental exercise
Uh-huh.
of imagining amounts of money and see how
Okay.
far off you are.
Okay.
Okay.
All
I
right.
actually want to see if you get this right. Can you imagine what $1 looks like?
Sure. Okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
have it
All
in my
right. So
head.
okay. So let's make it a little harder. Like, so close your eyes.
Okay.
Okay. How difficult do you think it is to imagine $10 million? Like, can you
I
imagine like
just
exactly how high the stack would be?
no, I can't know the
Bills.
exact. It's just a vague like stack of cash.
Okay. But can you give like some kind of idea of like what
Yeah,
it would look like?
I think $10 million would be like 3 feet tall, maybe 4 feet wide, right? 4 by 4, 3 feet tall. Like you can lay on it, but it's not longer than you, right?
Okay, so let's see if you're correct.
Okay.
Is this what you imagine
Can I
when
open
you
my
picture
eyes
10?
now?
Yeah, you can. Is this what you imagine when you picture $10 million?
God damn it. No, that is not what I imagined. I don't even
This
know.
isn't what you imagine. This isn't what you imagine $10 million looks like.
I
Because
saw
it is. This is $10 million like right in front of you. Did you know that? Anybody else watching? Did you guess that this is what $10 million looks like?
someone said that looks like Shaq's girlfriend holding his dong.
I I don't understand. So, if for anybody who doesn't know, this is the embrace. It has been erected, pun intended, in
You know.
Boston, in memoriam of MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
So who okay, here's the thing, right? This had to go through several different committees, right? Like there were several groups of people that had to approve the money.
Mm-hmm.
They had to look for the person. They essentially I don't know how it works, but maybe there's like a contest, a design contest or something. But even then, like there were several different iterations of this design. And then that had to go through another committee that approved that design and then approved that this design should be cost $10 million.
Yeah, and think about the architect or the artist who designed it. They obviously did a really good job detailing the muscles and the fingers, the knuckles, the jewelry on the hands. But you notice that they forgot the heads of
Did
the
they do that on
people.
purpose?
This is supposed to be MLK hugging someone else, and these are like his arms and the lady's arms who's hugging him.
How
But
are
they
they
just
even
did.
hugging?
I don't even know. You know, Angie, I want to get to all these questions, all these things you pointed out, and more, and maybe none of them. We'll see how the time works out
How
this
does it,
time. But
I'm just trying to
first,
imagine.
no, but yeah. But first, we have to do our thing. We because we're not going to forget
We're
anymore.
not going
And
to
it's a
forget
brand new season, is it not? It is season
2023.
two, 2023, season two. Welcome everybody to Boys on the Edge. I am.
Unshare it so that way the dong isn't there.
Oh no, like we're no, people got to remember what $10 million looks like, right?
2023. That right there started our year. Happy Martin Luther. It's not Martin Luther King
I'll
Day,
reshare this.
but
I'll reshare this. So we go back to full screen.
yes,
Again,
hello.
welcome. This is Boys on the Edge, season two. I am Brian Orillo.
There's NJ is on. This is the first episode of 2023, and it's been a wild ride. It's only been
Wow.
what, less than a month, and craziness already happening.
Yeah, it's like as soon as we stopped talking, all the new crazy things started happening. And so I guess we need to come back. We need to talk about these things. I believe today we are talking about the Miss Universe pageant, which was just a couple weeks ago. On the
My
recording of this episode, it's January 23rd. So ideally, this will be out later this week. But yeah, we had the Miss Universe pageant. We had Biden seemingly unable to not take classified documents and not hide
Mm,
them in the best
hmm.
possible way. We have a couple serious things we want to touch on as well, and maybe a couple more fun stories, including why this statue exactly looks like $10 million or is $10 million. We can talk more about that as well. But yeah, honestly, first of all, NJ, how are you? How are you doing?
Dude, I've been great. I've been
Yeah,
great. Yeah, 2023 has been interesting because I'm finally
23
finally
days into 2023, it is already
23 days.
interesting.
Oh shoot, it is 23 days as we're recording.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've actually been working out almost like every day, probably 5 times a week.
Yeah, you told me you're actually like getting out of bed and like walking now, right?
Yeah, well, I'm going for my run, dude. Okay, here's the thing. I realized I can't go for straight runs anymore.
So
I'm
you go for gay runs.
I Brian, they're called non-binary runs. Is
Go
that too
on.
much? Too
Go
much?
on. What do you mean you can't do
Um
a straight run anymore?
so I can't go running for just a long period of time. I have to stop. So what I've
Mhm.
been doing is I'm kind of building up. So there's this one lap in my neighborhood that I like to go around in it 4 times. And so what I'm doing is I'm building up to 2 laps where I can run 2 laps consecutively. But
Mhm.
I've been failing, especially yesterday because I fell and messed up my knee. So it was swollen for like half a day.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. It's because we talked about that earlier,
No,
and
it's okay.
this could divulge into a funny situation, but it's not. It's not
Well,
news to me. If it does, we'll talk about it, but not right now.
they called me. I fell. I'm not going to say the supermarket name, but I fell in a supermarket because there was a puddle in a supermarket and I was buying hot dogs. I was buying
That
hot
part's not
dogs.
important, but
That part's not, well, it was important because I looked like a moron while I was holding the hot dogs and I fell. And then there's just wieners all around. Like literally, there's hot dogs all around me when I fell and I couldn't get up because my knee just hurt. Like my knee hit the ground really hard, so I couldn't get up, and there's just hot dogs all around me. And then, yeah, well, luckily this couple came up and helped me, so that was good. But
yeah, happy you didn't get hurt.
I
Happy.
did get hurt, but I can still walk.
I mean, like, yeah, happy you didn't get like seriously hurt, right? Like, I'm
Oh
sorry
no.
your knee's hurting. And I know you're like it's one of those things, right? It's like when you're also like you getting into like you said, you're getting into your runs now, and now you hurt your knee. It's one of
Okay,
those
well,
things you got to like kind of have to hurdle over for the first couple of weeks when you're starting this new habit, right?
luckily it doesn't hurt that bad when I run. It only hurts at certain angles. If I put it in a certain angle, it starts to hurt. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not supposed to run and I'm just fucking up my knee even more.
I'm not. I don't think you're supposed to be turning your knee all the way 90 degrees to the left, NJ. I don't think that's. I don't think that's
That's what
smart.
it felt like yesterday. As if I hit my right, so I hit my left knee. If I hit my right knee, my weaker knee, because this knee's injured, right? Like I can tell you stories about my knee just popping up on the side because it's injured. I think I would have totally had to gone. I would have gone to the hospital.
Hmm.
That would have been really bad. Yeah, but I started working out because one reason is I just realized how attractive Miss Universe people are. And I'm like, okay, I feel like if I'm not saying that I could get Miss Universe status,
Hmm.
but I think if I went for my run/walk every morning, I can lose a few pounds. And I just need to lose a few pounds.
Miss
Yeah.
Universe is one of those interesting things in modern society. And by modern society, I mean like it's still something that we look at as entertainment, as a show, a spectacle. And for these women that are competing, their careers essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion on why we still have like these big pageants? You think with like the progressive movement of feminism and wanting to take women out of this box of just they're only pretty, they only have long hair, they have their nails, they have their swimsuit competitions, their insightful answers to these questions, their big smiles, the way they walk, like we're like all these boxes that literally like they check off in Miss Universe that are seen as somewhat gender norms for women. why do we still have them? Like, why is this still, why is something like Miss Universe still around in terms as a form of entertainment, I guess, for us?
So that's interesting because that's one way to look at it is that things like Miss Universe are detrimental to society, right? Because they put women in a certain stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
But then another way to look at it is like women wouldn't be able to be in these types of pageants like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, right? Like what did women need to do back then? Stay at the home and clean the house and take care of the kids.
Yeah, it wasn't maybe so much that women were celebrated, but now
Mm-hmm.
we can look at it as a way of celebrating women, like because they don't have, I guess, these freedoms. Well, maybe in a lot of modern countries they would, right? But let's say in some more not backwards, behind kind of countries that are a bit behind us in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like our social norms. I'm like, there's definitely some where women wouldn't even be allowed to show off their
Yeah.
bodies this way, to be on TV this way, to even be given an event like this, just to sorry, this is an SNL joke, but just to rank women, like just to have a show just for that, right? It's interesting that we as a country are able to do that because that's the freedom that we've given this particular gender, women who participate in Miss Universe and other pageants.
But then that's the thing. It's that there's some people that think that that's hurting women's rights. There's some women that think that it's hurting women's rights and women's image in society. But then there's another camp that actually believes that, hey, we're doing this for women's rights, right? We're doing this for women's liberation.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we have those types of things, these Miss Universe types of pageants, because it is I think I believe that it's for women's liberation. If you lived in a country where you're not allowed to show off your body, where you get stoned if you showed off your body, I mean, and that's kind of crazy for some folks to listen to, but that is what happens to some countries in some parts of the world, in many parts of the world, for the longest time. People would get shunned, and people would get, sometimes even women especially, they would get killed
Mm-hmm.
for showing off their body and showing these things off.
Yeah, they'd be called. I don't know. They'd probably be called like whore or something. Like you can't show
Mm-hmm.
off that part of your body. That's only, I guess, the man you marry are supposed to be like respectful for you. You're
Mm-hmm.
not supposed to reveal it, give it away. So he's, I don't know. Like I've never really looked into why women are I don't want to say oppressed, but why they like the cultures where women cover their faces and cover
Mm-hmm.
most of their bodies. I never really looked into why exactly, but it just obviously wouldn't fly in our country, in America now, right? It's just not
Yeah,
it's
well,
not
not
it's not
anymore.
progressive at all. It's very
Mhm.
anti-progressive.
Yeah, not
Mm-hmm.
anymore. So, that's an interesting question that you asked me, right? Like, why do we still have these things? I think it's because they represent women's liberation. They should be able to show off whatever they want to show off.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's, again, there's another side that believes that we're just using women. So, who's right, right? Like
Yeah.
who's to decide? Because it's the same type, it's the same thing that we're looking at, but one side completely believes that it's hurting women's image, and the other side completely believes that it's not. So
Mm-hmm.
who's to who's
I
to decide?
apologize if you hear my roommates speaking in the background. I do have hopefully my microphone's on the low enough sensitivity that you can't.
Is that who's? I thought there was someone fucking in your. I'm just kidding. No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Now, here's a question though, kind of related to that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that pageants, not just Miss Universe, but pageants in general, do you think they perpetuate certain stereotypes of what a good-looking woman should be?
It's really hard to say no because they obviously do,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the same for me at least. It's the same thing as bodybuilding competitions.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this once, it's for bodybuilding competitions, we have this one standard, and not like I do them, right? I wish I did.
I know you made it sound like you
No.
you made it sound like you're bulking right now, and then you're about to lean out.
What I
Yeah,
meant to
you
say,
by the way.
is that in these competitions, there's
Uh,
obviously a standard that the judges are looking for. You know,
mhm,
certain muscle poses, how much fat, I guess, is on your body, how big your muscles are. I guess even to the amount of oil that you put on to be shiny, right?
mhm,
There's like these for there too. There's like these standards, these things that the judges check off for what is going to be the best. And so for Miss Universe, kind of the same thing, except we're doing it for an entire gender. However, everybody who goes to work out is not going to be a bodybuilder. Everybody who
mhm,
goes to work out, seemingly doing it because they want to, is because they're on their own fitness journey. They're on their own version of whatever it is they want healthy to be for them.
mhm,
Ideally, it's something where they're losing a bit more weight, they're helping mitigate their health complications, right? Now, for Miss Universe, sure, we can try to say that the women participating in this competition are just pushing women's stereotypes. We can say that. But kind of the same way how everybody goes to the gym isn't a bodybuilder, not every woman who maybe watches Miss Universe or finds entertainment in Miss Universe, or maybe doesn't watch Miss Universe. Their standards of being what a woman is should be based on what they see on this TV show. I can see
mhm,
why it's hard, obviously. Like it gets a lot of media attention, and so they're on the screens a lot, and so they get a lot of people's attention. Everyone knows kind of like when Miss Universe is happening, or at least they know what the women look like. They know what to expect if they were to turn on Miss Universe. But again, that they don't have to follow that.
mhm,
They don't have to follow that. So yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say no, that it has no effect whatsoever,
mhm,
because there's always going to be attention on Miss Universe. There's always going to be a standard of what Miss Universe contestants look like, and what they're trying to do to be Miss Universe.
mhm.
But that doesn't mean that women should see that as the only standard, as the only boxes they have to check, because there are no number of boxes they have to check. They can be a woman however they want to be a woman. There's no one way to do it.
So I'm curious, right? Because we talked about standards. So it seems like a lot of folks don't who are against Miss Universe or pageants like that, right? Because they perpetuate certain stereotypes about women and what women should look like. They
Mm-hmm.
have a problem with a standard to begin with, right? So right now the standard is just that it's these types of women, right? What we find really attractive,
Mm-hmm.
fit, gorgeous women.
Technically, it's what Miss Universe, like the entity, the institution, deems as beautiful, as pretty. But those standards were made from, I don't know, however long ago Miss Universe was founded. It was probably a
Well, I
bunch of
mean,
men and women too, also making those standards, like you're saying.
do you feel like any man would be hard pressed to say that anyone in Miss Universe is not attractive?
I think any given man would have a hard time saying that any of the Miss Universe pageants are losers. You probably want to give them all, first
Yeah,
prize, right?
yeah.
Um, does that answer your question, or?
Well, I mean, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's no. I don't think I'll ever meet a guy that says, "Oh, that person isn't attractive." Now, they might say they're not attractive comparatively, right? They might say, "Oh, Miss Jamaica isn't as good looking as Miss Spain,"
Mhm.
but I think overall, like every guy would say, "Oh, yeah, they're attractive people to be there in Miss Universe." But I
Yep.
guess besides the point, right? Like my question is, most people who are against Miss Universe or pageants are against standards that make other people feel bad about themselves because they don't fit that standard.
But you can't control how people feel, you know?
Sure.
We're
Yeah.
talking about Miss Universe, but I don't think either of us actually sat down to watch the whole 3 hour thing, or however long it was.
Oh no, I just watched the intros. Or
Yeah,
the
exactly. And
My
ooh,
name is Brian
no,
Arillo.
no, 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 don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Okay, don't spoil it. Don't spoil
These will be questions for later.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it gets attention, right? It definitely gets a lot of attention. But there's also people who just don't pay attention to Miss Universe, right? Like they're the ones, I guess, that I was saying, maybe their standards of what beauty and everything are is not the same as what Miss Universe is trying to put forward, or was trying to put forward at some point. yeah, I keep going back to my answer of there's no one way. I guess like there's no reason why women should only look at Miss Universe and consider that a standard or something to strive
Sure.
for. At least not everyone. Maybe some women do. Maybe the ones who want to be Miss Universe, obviously, like they're trying to strive for that.
Well, to be Miss Universe, I mean, I don't know of any Miss Universe contestants that have, for example, have had kids, right? I feel like there's a very, I don't know,
There's probably a couple.
there's a couple. Let's take a look, right? How many Miss Universe contestants have had kids? Because I feel like childbirth takes a toll off of women a lot. Like the cost of childbirth to a woman is very, very not good, right?
Yeah, it's probably not that many. I'm sure a lot of these women do dedicate most of their lives to being ready for this competition versus trying to balance that with trying to start a family, be a mom. I feel like this kind of gets away from the point though. Like we were trying to talk about if we
They're
see it
not
as
allowed.
oh they're not allowed.
They're not allowed. Beginning with the 72nd Miss Universe pageant, married women and mothers will now be allowed to okay, will now be allowed. So the 2023, but previously they weren't because it takes a toll. No
Yeah,
contestants may not be married or pregnant.
as intriguing as that rule or that rule change is, I'm not entirely surprised. I probably could have both of us could have confidently sat here and said the majority, if not all, of Miss Universe contestants don't have children.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because again, there's more. And back to your point, there's more to life than looking like Miss Universe. I feel like being Miss Universe is very one sided. It's a
hmm
very very not actually one sided. It's a very one dimensional type of life. You have to
yeah.
be a
I
certain.
was gonna say that I wasn't sure how this really fit into our conversation, but now that I know, now that we know that the rule changed, they weren't allowed to have kids up
Yeah.
until this year.
So, well, 2023 this year is the new one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I don't know how long Miss Universe has been around, but that's an interesting rule change. Like they're, I guess
71
they
years. Yeah. I guess
how
71
much?
years because of the 72nd.
71 years. Jeez.
Yeah.
1950s. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That's nothing controversial, I would assume.
Well, I
But
don't
it's
think I don't know if it's anything controversial, but it does give credence to the idea that when, well, number one, when someone gives birth to a child, it does like it does mess up a woman's body, right? Like it changes it to a certain way. You know,
yeah, and I see what you mean. I was wondering why you were focused on the just the body part, but obviously,
no, because it doesn't. Yeah, that's why I
yeah.
think that's why
And then it goes beyond just the body, right? When you're a mom, you have an
you have kids
entire
to take care of.
life depends on you now. Like you have all these new responsibilities. And sure, it's possible to have both. We're definitely not here to say that it's impossible to have
Yeah,
both, but it's hard. It's going to be
yeah.
really hard.
But I guess what I am trying to say is that, like you said, not everybody wants to be like Miss Universe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that is such a one-dimensional thing. Like not everybody wants to be a bodybuilder because that's such a one-dimensional thing, right? Like to
Yeah.
look like
Not
Arnold
everyone wants to be a
Schwarzenegger.
bodybuilder, but a lot of people want to work out. They want to
Yeah,
stay in shape. A lot of
definitely.
women perhaps want to keep their makeup set to a certain standard, keep their bodily health to a certain standard. That should go for everybody, but not to the point of Miss Universe.
I'm just glad Miss USA won because she's
She
really
did.
attractive. Miss USA won. She's really attractive. So that was 1 point for USA right there. Plus
That's.
one, minus one with our president.
I
You
would
know,
feel more excited, but I just wasn't invested in Miss Universe to be able to say like,
so
yes,
I was
fuck yeah,
invested because
USA,
it's USA.
USA, right?
Can you imagine going to Miss Universe like you would a soccer game? USA, USA. That's right. Show your tits, bitch. Yeah. Right. Kick Jamaica in the face. Right. Like that would
oh,
be intense. Can you imagine the fans of Miss Universe being that rowdy?
oh, dude, the women themselves are rowdy, right? I think that here let's end this and then let's end it on this and then I think we can move on to our next topic here. Um, speaking of rowdy, speaking of the women in the competition, right? Who was your favorite introduction? If you haven't seen it, go on TikTok or YouTube or whatever and check out Miss Universe introductions. All of these women essentially screamed their country's name. and all of them in their own unique way.
I
So much that
uh,
we could never impersonate it. But why don't we talk about our favorites at
I
least?
I love the ones where they don't scream it, but they kind of forget that
Mhm.
they were supposed to. I think there was one, I forgot. It was one of it was a Rush, maybe it's a Russian speaking country.
Mhm.
Um she 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 just says her name. Oh, Russia. I guess Russia. Russia didn't look like she wanted to be there. Russia looked like she had a gun pointed to her head. She was just like, Miss Russia, right? And I was like, oh, like, do you not want to be here right now?
Yeah, they're just
Um,
very stoic
very
people.
stoic.
From what I see.
Yeah, I
Um,
think those ones always crack me up. And then Laos was because it's just Laos, you know.
mhm.
But she said La. She like elongated it.
I'm
And
uh
there's
I'm gonna go for the low hanging fruit. I'm sorry,
which one,
Miss France.
Miss France,
France.
France. Dude, it's always so funny. It's always so funny just to see how the crowd reacts to
Mhm.
certain countries. You know,
Mhm.
I think, yeah. I'm still glad that Miss USA won because also she's Filipino, so that's
Oh,
awesome. She's
that's
half
cool.
Filipino, I think. Yeah,
That's cool. That's great for you guys. And like
I mean,
we all won because it's our country, but for you specifically, that's
I won more.
yeah, you won more. That's
I
awesome.
won more. She's really attractive. Not gonna lie, she's really attractive.
Ugh. So yeah, other countries, right? Other countries must have their opinions on the US, huh?
Miss USA, yeah.
Miss
But
USA in
here's
particular, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
our country in particular. I think what's been more interesting than the hotness of Miss USA relating to the United States is just this whole situation with Biden getting, I guess, caught
Mhm.
with classified documents outside of the White House.
Mhm. Classified
That's
documents, not from his presidency, or at least not all of them from his presidency,
uh-huh.
from his vice presidency, from his time in the Senate in like the 30 years, I guess, before he was vice president. Actually, he's been leaving documents everywhere. I, oh my God, dude, there's one right here. Shoot, he.
I thought it was gonna say something.
I think this is his plan to cancel student debt, but it's just one thing. It says Google how to cancel student debt.
Google. What?
And then it says turn page over. Yeah.
So okay.
So maybe not all these classified documents are very important, right? But there's a lot of them. They've been finding like I think three different, three separate events now of finding classified documents in Biden's possession.
See, that's the thing. Maybe I'm just not knowing the details, but why is it that it's okay for Joe Biden to be caught with unclassified with classified documents outside of the White House where he's not supposed to have them? But it was okay for the FBI to raid another sitting president or former
No,
sitting president.
former, yeah, former.
Yeah, raid their house because there was apparently classified documents there.
Yeah, so the situations aren't exactly the same, right? The
Mm-hmm.
situation with Trump, I don't know, I don't remember how they found out he had classified documents, but there was a suspicion, and the
Mm-hmm.
FBI raided his place in Florida, and then they found it. And as far as I can tell, nothing has come of it. Like whatever he had, it must not have been of national secret importance or whatever. Um, for Joe Biden, it's a little bit more interesting, I would say, not because the FBI sought him out, but because his own lawyers, when they were cleaning out the Penn Biden Center in Pennsylvania, I believe that would make sense because of the name.
Mm-hmm.
When they were cleaning out the Penn Biden Center in Pennsylvania, that's when these were Biden's lawyers, and they found these documents. And it's interesting that the documents were in Biden's possession, away from the White House, away from the essentially the security of the government that keeps the classified documents under lock and key. It was just sitting at his offices or in some back room in the Penn Biden Center.
Uh-huh.
There was that, and then there were documents found in one of Biden's homes where his son Hunter was living for a while, where he was paying supposedly like thousands of dollars in rent but was also claiming he owned the house. That's not important to the
Yeah, yeah.
classified documents part, but sketchy stuff is happening at the same time, at the same times, the same places that these documents are being found. And yeah, so to answer your question, it's not okay that he's seemingly getting a lot of coverage because of these classified documents. But the FBI, at least 3 days ago, I think the FBI did go into his Wilmington, Delaware home and found more documents, which is why I said there were three
But they
separate.
didn't raid his Delaware home.
They found more documents from when he was a senator, from his vice presidency, I believe. Yeah, it's
So
interesting
remember,
that like they're finding more, and
uh,
yet nobody's really calling for Biden to be impeached, to be further investigated, except for Republicans, of course, calling for Biden to be impeached, to be investigated, for all of us, the regular voting citizens, tax-paying citizens, to ask why. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not okay that the standard is not being applied both ways.
remember when everybody on the other side, the left-leaning side of the political spectrum, was in an uproar when they found out that Trump had classified documents and
Mm-hmm.
that should be illegal. But then when Biden does it, nobody bats an eye.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know of any political station apart maybe from Fox News and the Daily Wire, like the two bastions of, right wing thinking,
Mm-hmm.
talking about this as much.
Yeah, it's true. And um, the coverage that Trump got, I remember it was specifically linked to a suspicion that he was selling secrets to the Russians. Russia has been a common topic in Trump's political career, at least since he was president. Obviously, with the whole first impeachment thing, that he was working in collusion with the Russians. Even afterwards, now, like he's already out of the White House, he's found out classified documents. Oh, it must be Russia. Must be working in
Mm,
Russia. He's going to sell our secrets to Russia. No, I think it was. I don't like I said. I don't know exactly what the documents were, but if it had been something related to Russia, that's pretty damning. Damn, whatever. It's condemning evidence for sure,
mm-hmm.
and it must not have been anything.
But it was like getting a new toilet or getting a bidet for the White House. Something stupid like that. I'm just curious, it's just there's these political pundits that are just playing one side. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to see that. It's interesting to see similar mistakes that the ones that their side makes and barely anybody says anything.
Yeah, and it's not just the pundits, it's not just the media itself, right or left. It is Biden himself. It's his press secretary herself
Uh-huh.
that they they claim nothing's wrong. They claim nothing amiss or nothing's amiss. Biden himself has said already, like he has no regrets for how this whole situation was handled. Another reason why I think he's not in somewhat hot water is that he was once the lawyers discovered the papers, or once all these groups of documents were found, Biden and his team, the administration in general, have been cooperating with the DOJ, have been cooperating with the government. This is the whole checks and balances part of our
Mhm.
government, right? Quick little AP Gov review, right? This is how it should work. And Biden and his team have been working, without hesitancy. They've been just straight up like working with everything as if everything's in the up and up. It's worth noting that that second group of documents, or the first one, the first group of documents were found on November 2nd. If that date sounds, or November, they were found before the midterm elections. I was going to say if that date sounds familiar, it's because
Mhm.
it's right before the midterm elections happened. Is it not interesting that they found these documents before the midterms, didn't say anything for a month, right? The midterms happened, the results that happened. Is it not interesting that if this story had gotten out, it definitely would have had some
It would have
political
had an
effect
effect,
on the
yeah.
voters?
Yeah, it definitely would have had an effect. And I think, man, the fact that they found it at that time and they were able to hide it for that long.
Mm-hmm.
How many days is that they hid it?
I vaguely remember hearing about this the first time at the end of January or end of December.
So what is that? A little
It's
bit
a
over a month.
it's about a month and a half after the start of November, which is when the elections happen.
One thing that I will credit the left for is they're pretty good at winning freaking elections.
They are. They're
They
really,
they're
really
good at
good.
winning elections.
Like the one time you thought they were going to win, they didn't. But then since then, they've got it locked down, right? It's not
Yeah.
something you can say about modern day conservatives, Republicans in general. They're very divided. There's a lot of other right wing stuff, and by right wing I don't mean like extremists, obviously, but there's a lot of other right
I
wing
mean
topics of
Steven Crowder.
discussion. Steven Crowder, another political pundit, talking head, essentially, who I don't know. It feels like he's like causing a lot of divide in among conservatives right now. It's like you really don't want them to be fighting amongst themselves. If you want a working government, you really need the both halves to be working to their full potential.
Mhm.
Ideally, none of them are doing anything sketchy, but that's
Well, that's
never
that's
gonna happen either.
interesting, because I was so there's this guy from like decades ago, right? Like people were wondering like how did conservatives have this like era of just conservatives,
Hmm.
right? Like how did we get from not like Rhino conservative, like not like Nixon conservatives, but like how do we get to Reagan, and those types of right wingers. And it was interesting because there's this, there was essentially just this person, William Buckley, that just made a front, right? Like he gathered all these conservatives and made just one movement. And I think that's the left has been really good at making this one movement. Like
Hmm.
obviously there's like the woke people that, you know, are very opposed to that. But even the woke people in politics, like Kamala Harris, she's pretty woke, right? AOC, she's pretty woke, right? They're good at giving up certain woke things so they can get the majority vote, so they can stay in there, because you can't be too radical if you want to win elections. And I feel like that's what right wingers are, or at least the right wingers right now, is that they're standing on 100% of their beliefs, and it's dividing the whole side,
Hmm.
because they won't give up some of those things to win an election.
Hmm. And that feeling of like not giving up on your values, it's something that maybe some people would admire. It's something that could be seen as a good, not a good habit, a good personality quality, just like never letting go. But at the same time, you kind of have to know, you kind of have to know when to let go. You
Yeah,
need,
look, having 70% of your values is better than the other side winning and you have 0% of your values,
Mhm.
right? Like that's the thing. It's like, oh, it's so honorable to hold on to your values. I mean, in one sense, yeah, but in the other sense, it's the results of holding on to your values so much, right? That's causing this whole scenario where we're not winning elections,
Mhm.
right? Like it's just, yeah, some right wingers just need to give up certain fights, like gay marriage. It's just an opinion,
Nobody's fighting gay marriage. Like, don't.
right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to like say that so defensive. Like nobody, but nobody's fighting gay marriage. It's
Well,
been it's been officially protected into the U.S. Constitution, and now so like you can't do anything about it. And now, even if
sure,
you
but
wanted
there's
to,
right wingers that are against it right now, and they should just shut up about it.
yeah.
They should just shut up about it, right? Like that's a if you want to fight it. Like I'm not saying I'm for gay marriage or against gay marriage, but if you want to fight it as a right winger, fight it later, right? Unite in a certain in this movement,
Hmm.
and yeah, again, the left has just been really good at uniting. Um, yeah, they know how to win elections.
Yeah. Not to mention any Republican, any red person, essentially, any red candidate. As soon as they say they're against gay marriage, they're probably going to lose that election.
Well,
it's
unless
too far
they're
along.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's yeah.
God, yeah, our government, our workings of our government are so interesting. I mean, we definitely talk about it more than just on this show, right? We have a lot of discussions about just like how our country works. Like today, we kind of both realize we don't know how money works.
Okay, so I was thinking about it more after our conversation, right?
Um,
So like, what if we took out money? Right, I want you to imagine a scenario where we took out money. Like, how do we exchange things? Like, if we took out money, like if
mhm.
I wanted to, like, let's say I wanted to get your guitar, what would I need to do to get
Yeah.
your guitar?
Once you take away the centralized currency that everybody agrees has value,
Mm-hmm.
then at the same time that loses value, everything else that isn't money gains more value, right? And that's what it'll be based on. So if you want my guitar, I don't know, give me your car. Like
But see, that's the
it's
thing.
not a fair
It's
trade, but like that's how we'd have to start doing it because we
yeah.
wouldn't have a currency.
So
If we
we're
had if I had a lot of guitars, I would instead offer you perhaps one that I'm okay letting go of, a
uh-huh.
value that I'm okay letting go of, because now the multitude of guitars are my currency. And then whatever you have to offer is your currency. And we have to kind of agree on,
It's
okay,
a bartering system.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all bartering. Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. Without a centralized currency, we can't always make like there's a lot of transactions that won't happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like because sometimes let's say I'm trying to sell a cow. I want to
Mm-hmm.
make it into animals. I'm trying to sell a cow, but let's say the person that I'm trying to sell the cow to only has chickens. Well, I don't fucking need chickens. I got a bunch of chickens right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means we can't make a transaction, right? So naturally, I feel like that's what happens if we want to trade as people. It's either a bartering system, which isn't as effective as having this currency, right? They used to use shells in like Africa,
Yeah. There'd
right?
be I've heard of shells, obviously like goods and services.
Uh-huh.
Back when, trading routes were a thing, like on
Yeah.
land, right? There was salt, meat, spices, skins, like
In,
animal skins.
in prison, they use cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always like a currency that comes up
Hmm.
for
And that's
people
and,
to trade.
and that's the question, right? Like how have we all agreed that like money is money? It's the thing. It's the one. It's like, where's my wallet? How did we all agree
How much
that
is in there? How
this
much is in there?
it's just a dollar?
I thought you were gonna take out like
Oh, it's
wads.
like hundreds. But really, like, how did we all agree? Like, that's what. Like, I'm not trying to answer that question today, but it just blows my mind. Especially like if you really start to think about, like, I get we introduced a show talking about the national debt, right?
Uh-huh.
That freaks us out because not only you have to remember that we owe all that money. We also two things. We created the idea that that money has value, and two, we printed a lot of that money, so now it's just like gone. Like we have to get it back somehow, but we printed it. So then how do we? This is what I'm
We
saying.
have
Like,
to get it back somehow. Somehow
yeah,
we have to get it back. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. And that concept of the necessity of debt for you to
mm,
be trustworthy, right? You gotta have a debt. So because if you think about it, what a debt is it's a sign of, a debt paid is a sign of consistency,
mm,
right? Like if you have a debt but you keep paying it, then you're going to be a player in the game for a long time, right? At least that's the assumption. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Right.
You have to. It's a long term investment. It's a long term acceptance to be like you're buying into the system. It's a system. A system doesn't just go away. A
Mm-hmm.
system thrives. It grows. It
Mm-hmm.
changes, but it never goes away.
Yeah, it never
Yeah.
does. It's weird that debt becomes a sign of trust, right? Because initially you'd be like, oh, if someone owes you money,
Yeah, it wouldn't be such a problem if China owed us a bunch of money. Well, they might, but it wouldn't be such a problem if like the China debt against the US was growing by a lot.
mm-hmm,
Like in that case, it's a good thing because we have money coming in. They owe us. We owe a lot more.
we owe a lot more.
Yeah.
A lot more. Man, we owe a lot of money. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't know how we're going to pay it off. Because debt assumes that it's going to be paid off at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the assumption there.
We just got to tax the wealthy, right? They have more money, so we just tax them more.
If Elon Musk just gave up his billions, there would be zero hungry people in the world. Like, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think logistically that even makes any sense.
Remember his I think it was UNICEF, something like that, was claiming that, or Elon Musk tweeted out at UNICEF or something like that, or no,
Was it
at the United
UNICEF?
Nations.
United Nations, it was the
Yeah, yeah,
UN.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying like if these people can give me their exact plan for how X billion dollars is going to fix world hunger, I will do it right now.
And you know what they did? They gave him a plan, but it was like 2.5 pages long. And I'm like, you're gonna solve world hunger. Let me get this straight. You're gonna solve world hunger with a 2.5 page plan. What about the infrastructure? Where are the billions gonna go? Right? What portion of money is gonna go where? Right? Where are the people gonna get this food? Are we just gonna throw money into the Sahara? Like what is the actual step by step? And the answer is nobody knows.
Yeah, and secret answer: anybody who says, um, anybody who says, whether they just say it like this or not, anybody who says that just throwing more money at the problem is going to fix it, one, they don't believe that. Two, they're not talking about their own money.
They're not talking about their own money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's only see that's the thing. It's only unfair when it's your money, but it's when it's someone else's money, it's totally fair. It's totally for social justice. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's in your money, right? That's why people like, people like that streamer, who's that? What's his name? Hassan B.
Mm-hmm.
They're self-promoted socialists, but they buy $2 million homes in LA, right? And when people criticize them, they talk about how it's their money and they made it off of streaming and they made it off of making content. And I mean, that's fine and all, but you're playing into the system that you're criticizing, that you say is so evil, but you're doing the exact same thing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
How do you
I think I was saying before, just like the political ideas that are in this country are, you can tell a lot of people like really mean what they say, but sometimes with not the best intentions.
But see, that's the thing. If they don't act out what they say, do they really mean it? Can someone call themselves a socialist and still buy iPhones and iPads and buy Gucci shoes and buy things on Amazon and support the things that they really dislike? I mean, look, if I'm really against the Holocaust, then right, let's say I was right in that time I was a German and I was really against the Holocaust, like I wouldn't be playing into the things that supported the Holocaust.
It's hard not to be honest. It's hard not to. It's hard not to. I mean, if you really are a socialist and you need to get your word out, if you want to be a not only just a socialist, but someone who actually like leads the ideation of what a socialism is, how we can put socialism into this country, you need a platform. And to get a platform, you kind of need to play into the system.
So okay, so
That's probably their justification for it. I'm not trying to say like that's a
yeah,
justification, but that's probably how they say it. Like
so sure.
the things are here. Like how are they just going to not use it?
Do they need $2 million homes to get their word out?
But that's just this one streamer's example. But no, I don't think they do.
Do they need multiple iPads? Do they need multiple iPhones? Do they need nice cars? Do they need nice clothes? If someone's
No,
really
I
a
hear your
socialist,
point. I hear your point. They would to be able to grow on the scale that they're probably looking to grow. They're going to need the help of capitalism and the fruits of that and the fruits of such a system,
mm-hmm.
especially in a society that's thrived off of capitalism for its entire history, for better or for worse, but always for growth.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's never failed. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think Karl Marx or any of those, communists or socialists would have done such a thing.
No, it was easier back then. All you had to do is, not just for socialists, right? Just shout into a microphone loud enough, you get enough people to rally up with you. You say the right things.
You say the right things at the right time with the right tonality, and that movie Anastasia is all about that, right?
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
Anastasia, yeah. They
My
were the
girlfriend know about
czars,
my
right?
girlfriend would know about that. She's seen the musical and the movie, so maybe
That
she can
movie,
explain
by the
the
way,
plot to me.
is so historically inaccurate, but I love it anyway. It's
I'll
so
look into it.
historically inaccurate, but I love it. But yeah, it's just fascinating that there's this just level. Maybe that's just there's just a level of hypocrisy that people just need to accept. I don't
Hmm.
know. You know, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm not down for accepting any hypocrisy. But that's just me.
Yeah, well, I don't. In that, I don't know. I feel like here's the thing, right? And maybe this is just me kind of looking into, I guess, my life and people that I know. We say things all the time that we don't really mean, or that we don't act out.
Hmm.
Like we say things all the time that we don't act out. So, the question becomes like, if I say something and I don't act it out, do I really believe it? Right? Like if I say, like, I'm gonna use the socialist example again. If I say that
Hmm.
I'm a socialist, but I enjoy the fruits of capitalism, am I really a socialist?
I think you can be. I think you can hold on to the ideas, but you have to be aware
But
that you can hold on to the ideas.
mhm.
I don't think there's anything that wouldn't allow you to hold on to the ideas and to believe in them. But if you participate in another system, it can poke holes in your own platform, right? Like how do you, I don't know, if you're a car manufacturer and you tout that your engine is the best, when in reality your company has been using another type of engine technology that's more like the competitors, so that's
Mhm.
because they're trying to keep up with them. Or if you're just flat out using something that you say isn't the best, but because you have no other option, you use it anyway. I don't really think that goes against your.
But you don't really believe it to be the best, right? Like you say that it's the best,
That's
but you don't
okay,
really
fine. Then
believe it.
yeah, if you wouldn't, if you believed it to be the best, then you wouldn't use anything else at
Yeah.
all. You would make your thing work.
Yeah. So your
And
actions really
that's
are the
that's
ones that
that's really hard to
determine
do.
your yeah, your
Yeah.
actions are the ones that determine your what you really believe, right? Like I could say, like
Mhm.
I'm gonna give an example, right? I could say I'm straight, I'm straight, I'm straight, but if I keep fucking dudes on the side, like left and right, I ain't really that straight, right? Like,
Yes. I'm just gonna say yes.
well, I don't know, like if you think about it, right? Like if I know that was kind of like a weird example. Like I'm not trying.
Mhm.
And he's trying to tell me something. No, but it's the fact that your actions, what you do, is a real glimpse of what you really believe.
Yes, and your example holds, right? Like you can't be doing one thing while preaching another or saying that the other one is better,
Or the
especially.
opposite. It's not just that it's another thing. It's that you're acting out the opposite of what you say you believe,
Mhm.
right? I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a level of hypocrisy that's interesting. And I don't know. We live it out in our lives, and some of us are just more vocal about and accepting about our hypocrisy than others, right?
Mhm.
So that's I don't know. That's just been going on in my mind ever since we talked about. I looked up Hassan B and I was like, oh, the guy's interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say if that came up during our national debt talk, that was literally like 6 hours ago.
That would have been
I've
yeah.
had a lot
I
of
don't think
time
it
to
came
think
up. I
about
don't think it
this,
came up.
and yeah, I don't agree with our economy after
Well, here's
six
one thing I
after
think
six
that
hours of
everyone.
thought.
Here's one thing that I think everyone is in agreement with, left or right. Mass shootings aren't cool.
Wow, that was a terrible segue.
That's a
That was
terrible
a
segue.
fucking terrible segue.
Okay, let's find a
It's
better
too
one.
late. No, it's been segued. It's been segwad, whatever. It's too
What's
late.
interesting though is that it's not getting enough coverage.
Yeah,
How many people on
definitely.
Facebook are talking about it right now?
I haven't been on Instagram or Facebook a lot today. I would imagine that not that many, considering the details of this shooting.
Mhm.
But before we talk about this, obviously, you have to at least show a little respect. I guess we
It
don't
is
have to,
very
but
unfortunate.
I think we should show a little respect
Mhm.
at least to the victims of the shootings because this happened in Monterey Park, as far as we understood. as far as we understand, a lot of the victims were unfortunately older people
Hmm.
at a dance studio in Monterey Park, which is in Southern
Everyone
California. If anybody
involved, I
doesn't know,
think, everyone involved were older. That was really
including
sad.
the
You
shooter,
know? Yeah, including the
including.
shooter. That was
Mhm.
really sad to find out. Because it was a holiday. I think people were celebrating. Um,
It's
yeah.
devastating, right? Like you, like my, I was talking about this with someone that, and I didn't really get it at first, but I understood their point after a while that regardless of the conditions of this
Mhm.
shooting, the fact that it happened in Monterey Park, which is predominantly Asian, and it happened around the same time as Lunar New Year. I think it happened at a Lunar New Year event, a related event. Um, that makes it really sad. It's just like if there was a shooting during Christmas,
Yeah.
it makes it just a little bit more tragic that it was in a community of people who are probably trying to celebrate, and now they have to deal with this tragedy, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's close to home. That's close to
Mm-hmm.
home because it's close. It's probably like 10 miles from where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Yeah, it was the details were so interesting because it was a dance studio
Mm-hmm.
and it was, dance studio with older people, kind of practicing. I think it was a specific class and I don't know the details exactly why the older guy did the shooting,
They don't know, and
but
the guy and the shooter's dead. Also,
the shooter's dead. Yeah,
yeah,
he killed himself, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So that was interesting to note that it was, you know, it
Mm-hmm.
was just an altercation. And it probably is. There's probably something that happened there in regards to that guy, going crazy like that. Because it seems not coincidental that it's older. They're all older and they're all Asian in there,
Mm-hmm.
right? I feel like there was, I don't know, maybe he had beef with the studio or something. Yeah, I just
I
don't see a
was,
lot of coverage of it, on Instagram or social media.
dude. Wow. Um, so the shooting that happened 2 or 3 months ago
Hmm.
at the drag queen show at the nightclub where the shooter ended up claiming to be non-binary.
Yeah,
How many people died in that one?
I don't remember. Several. We can look it up.
You remember it was in Colorado? Is that where it was?
Yeah.
Club Q, that's what it was. 5 people died. 5 people died in that shooting. I'm not bringing this up to compare numbers, but to compare
Coverage.
coverage.
Hmm.
So Colorado Springs, the Club Q shooting, back in November, 5 people died, and this shooting received a lot of coverage, and I think a lot of people can figure out why. It was immediately labeled as a hate crime.
Hmm.
The shooter was thought to be persuaded by right wing ideology, racist ideology, bigoted ideology, and thus drove them to go to this club and shoot up the place and kill 5 people.
Hmm.
Um, that event was seen as a horribly tragic event, right? Because the idea behind it that the media was already putting into to the zeitgeist, right, is that this was a hate crime and that this was premeditated. This was aimed to
Hmm.
harm LGBT people of LGBT. All right, and that's just a fact. Like that's just how they covered it.
Hmm.
Look at this shooting now. This happened yesterday. Um, like I said, and another thing, when I went on social media, like a week after the Club Q shooting, there was at least one person every time,
There's
like
always, if you look at people's stories on Instagram, you would see it like
yeah,
back to back stories about
and
it.
and not even just talking about the shooting necessarily, or thoughts and prayers and stuff like that, but always pinpointing that this could have been, not that it was, that it could have been a hate crime, and it looks so much like a hate crime that it has to be a hate crime
Hmm.
when it hasn't been proven to be a hate crime. Anyway, I bring this up because that all that was because of media coverage from the Club Q shooting. The media coverage for this particular shooting in Monterey Park
Hmm.
yesterday, which was January 22nd, um, I can tell just by reading a couple of the first articles that the ideation of this was a Asian hate crime was starting to be pushed, but it's almost like it was dipping its toes into the water
Hmm.
and seeing if the water was warm and accepting. And then
They found out that the
They
guy
found
was.
out more details that
Uh-huh.
this simply was not a hate crime in general.
Hmm.
Um, and more people more people died. I said I wasn't going to compare numbers, but if we're really looking at how tragic something is,
Hmm.
it to me
Was yeah, yeah.
it seems like people in our age group, maybe like liberals in our age group especially, and then our media coverage in general seemingly wants to give a higher importance to the club a shooting that had implications like Club Q versus the shooting in Monterey Park. Although they were trying to do it at first, because I mean, by saying that I can see what they were trying to test the water with it, they really didn't have to mention that Monterey Park was
Predominantly
predominantly
Asian.
Asian and it happened during Lunar New Year.
Hmm.
People already know, at least can kind of figure out that it is Lunar New Year. And yeah, it ended up having to do something with the actual shooting, but not in the racist implications that I think the media was looking to do from the
See, that's
start.
the thing. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it's absolutely there's I think there's a lot of truth to that where it's covered more if it fits a certain narrative. Like think
Mhm.
about how many people on Instagram right now are posting about this on their stories. When and I'm not saying that you know like one should have more coverage than the other. I think all of this should have equal coverage because
Mhm.
it's tragic,
Yeah.
right? But the fact that the Club Q shooting for a week and a half, people were posting about it over and over and over again. And there's people now that don't even know that this happened in Monterey Park.
Mhm.
It's just a sign that we're playing a certain narrative, right? And if it doesn't fit that narrative, it doesn't really matter.
It shows it shows that a certain narrative is like it's like the template for the narrative is there, and
Mm-hmm.
we're just trying to fill in the gaps for every story that comes about from it.
Mm-hmm.
It feels that way, and it's hard not to feel that way. You know, this obviously between the both of us, this is not an anti-LGBT thing. We're not trying to say that they deserve less attention. Definitely not trying to say that they deserve any kind of violence against them either.
Mm-hmm.
These are just our observations. This is just like what we. It's very clear to see, and I think the response of so what, or like what difference does it make? Like
Mm-hmm.
what's the big deal? I think it makes a big deal because the media itself is trying to teach us like what we should be thinking is more important, or what should be thinking are like actual problems, when in reality they're just trying to make it fit the narrative so that we keep thinking it's a problem, we keep thinking it's a recurring thing.
Here's the thing, right? If you don't believe us, I want you to look at I'm looking at my Instagram right now. I've scrolled through 15 people and none of them have talked about this shooting.
I know one person has, but just to mark themselves safe on Facebook,
Yeah,
which
but no one has posted anything about this shooting. It's been
yeah.
yeah, nobody.
Even I'm looking at someone who I know is extremely like far left and
Uh-huh.
posted a lot of stuff during the Club Q shooting, a lot of stuff that ended up being proven wrong, by the way. And no, they are posting videos of their cats and some kind of bingo game. I don't even know. But
It's
yeah, the person
crazy.
who was like posting all the time about the last shooting, not really saying much about this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, look, 7 hours, nothing. Nothing, no coverage about this. Zero.
Yeah. And again, our Instagram and followers and Facebook friends
I'm
are
looking
not
at
a
celebrities.
microcosm, right?
I'm looking at celebrities right now. None of them have talked anything. Several celebrities that claim to be left wing, and when the Club Q shooting happened, everyone was up in arms, but nothing.
And before knowing all the facts too.
Yeah, nothing. None of this. And that's what's it's sick. It's absolutely sick that when it doesn't fit the narrative, no one cares about it. I don't know. Are
Yeah.
you seeing anything?
No, I'm not. I'm still scrolling through, but I'm not. I'm not going to hold a position of like, oh, our Instagrams are full of any of this. That
Well, I'm not
means it's
even
not getting a
saying
lot
it's
of
our
coverage.
Instagram. Well, I mean,
But it does. We're not. I don't know. Our feeds are not a microcosm of the whole country. I have no. I'm not. I guess I'm not trying. I'm trying to just say that that's what we're seeing. It's our observations,
well, it's not
but
even just
it's
our feeds. It's the people that who are followed, who are big things in this country, right? Big faces in this country,
hmm.
celebrities that have said zero about this. When the Club Q shooting happened, everyone was up in arms.
Oh yeah, did Biden speak about this? And another, and sorry, and something else I wanted to bring up. I looked up just nightclub shooting, and there was another one yesterday also in Louisiana, which had pretty basically zero coverage as far as I can tell. But
Joe
yeah, I
Biden didn't
remember
post anything about this.
during the Club Q shooting, I think Biden spoke. It might have just happened to be at the same time he was going to speak anyway. Um, but yeah,
No, but
he
there's a state of there's always a message from the president when it comes to these types of things.
was there. Biden speaks. Monterey. It happened in LA. He might have
Or
given.
there's someone from the White House that talks about, right? This is a
Oh
mass
yeah,
shooting.
yeah. Okay, you're right. They got their responses. Kamala Harris spoke about it, and then the White House, or just the Biden in general, announced that all flags to be flown at half mast. Yeah,
This is fascinating. This is so fascinating that it's just it doesn't get as much coverage as that, and it's as if it's not as big of a deal, which is really unfortunate.
that's what it makes it feels like, right? Like I was trying to say that this isn't an anti-LGBT thing, but it feels hard to say out loud, just like you did, that other people have feelings, other people have been affected by something horrible, and seemingly that tragedy is just flat out not getting attention because the media has chosen to not
Yeah. Well, I'm not
talk about
saying
it as
that
much
that
for their narrative.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Club Q shooting shouldn't have gotten attention. Yeah, it
Hmm.
should have gotten attention. People should have been posting about it. But why are they not posting about it now? Why are they not up in arms about this now? And I think it's because it doesn't fit the narrative because it's a bunch of Asians shooting up another bunch of Asians. And it doesn't fit the narrative of people being against LGBT or white supremacy, so it doesn't deserve that coverage that it should.
Yeah. If anything, it fits a gun control narrative now, but even then, it's not like a hot topic, so nobody's like really leaning into it, at least as far as I can
I
see.
think it fits the narrative of some people are shitty people,
Yeah.
right? And they don't
Hmm.
want to accept that some people, the people that shoot up people, but to be vile and despicable to shoot up old people, right? To shoot up a club where there's families,
Hmm.
there's a show going on, to be that vile and despicable and to put that weight on an entire group of people, right? That's the narrative, right?
Hmm.
When a white guy shoots up a place, it's white supremacy. And so they talk about it because it's that narrative. When a gay club gets shot up, it's anti-LGBT, right? But when
Hmm.
Asians shoot up other Asians, shush, then no coverage because it doesn't fit a certain narrative that they're trying
Hmm.
to push. When the reality is people shoot up people because they're shitty, right? And they're evil people. And there's evil people in the world, and it has nothing to do with white supremacy or anti-LGBT or anti-black people. It's just some people are just shitty people, but it doesn't fit that narrative of a group hating against another group. So they don't talk about it.
Well, I think as a somber note, I think that is where we're going to end it today. Not a lot of funny stuff happening, guys. Sorry, this has been such a bummer, but Angie and I feel like our opinions shouldn't be known to everybody, although that'd be kind of cool if they did. But we want to make our opinions known, our things we're observing, things we're seeing. This country is in a very interesting state, and hopefully the next time we meet, maybe something a bit more interesting than Miss Universe or Biden's classified documents or NJ coming out secretly in the middle of this episode.
Did I come out?
Maybe some more stuff will
Dude,
happen.
can you imagine? Imagine I came out without even knowing I came out. That'd be
Yeah,
wild.
no. Okay, fine, you're out. You can go back in. You can pretend none of this happened. Like, no, I think I'm gonna stay
Can you
this
go
way.
back in the closet? Once you're out, right? There's no going back in.
Hmm.
But subscribe though. I want you to subscribe right
I'll let
here.
you point. I don't know where I'm
Right
gonna
here.
point.
It should be somewhere right here.
I'll put, yeah, you can put it there. If you are looking to check out some of our old episodes from last season and some of our new shorts, which we'll be making more of very, very, very soon, please click right here. And I did that correctly because I had to think about it for a full 10 seconds before I moved my
Is
hand.
it gonna show? I don't know if it's gonna show up, but we'll see.
I don't know. You do all the editing, so I'm gonna kind of
Show
rely
up.
on you for that.
Show up. Show up.
All
All
right,
right.
guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks so much. I'll catch you next time.